podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Spanning the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, this is Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown.
In times like this, does it seem like a movie like this, today's movie, can get made? So many people are impatient about things. I'm talking about you, Warner Brothers.
Yeah, definitely.
It takes time to make a good soup.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they're doing in the Avengers and Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Definitely.
I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
Welcome to Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown, Day 6, April 10th, 2019. Mm-hmm. And today is the culmination. At the time, they didn't know what was going to happen yet, of the original first 5 movies. It's the 6th movie in the series, Marvel's The Avengers.
Yes.
Bringing together Iron Man, played by Robert Downey Jr., Thor, played by Chris Hemsworth, Captain America, played by Chris Evans, and the Incredible Hulk, now played by Mark Ruffalo. Mm-hmm. Edward Norton kind of got the boot after the first movie.
Yep.
And it also introduces us to Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye persona, which will come through, and the debut, well, not the debut, she was in Iron Man 2, but we didn't really see her as much until here.
Right.
Of Natasha Romanoff, a.k.a. Black Widow, played wonderfully by Scarlett Johansson. I'm
not knocking that. I'm not knocking that. You got great taste. You got great taste in women. I got to tell you.
We also had a lot of the other characters from
yes,
other movies.
Other characters, and also a bigger part for who we've seen in other films already. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, and of course Clark Gregg as Phil Coulson. We're not worthy. We're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Yep.
This film. We knew that it was coming. We knew it was all building to this. And when it actually happened, it was like, good grief, this is awesome.
Yeah. People who complain about the superhero movies, and there are a number of critics that hate the current state of movies because they moan and kvetch. I'm talking to you, Jeff Wells, about superhero movies.
Yeah.
And yet they actually took the time to look at these movies and see how wonderfully well written they are.
Yeah.
How wonderfully stylish they are.
How well they acted, they're funny,
they
can't
see past the CGI and the superhero aspect.
Yeah.
And it's
if I could just for a second speak. No, hold up. If I could just for a second speak to all of the people out there who are dismissive of superhero films, comic book films, all that stuff. Mm. If I could just speak to them for a second and speak to them rationally, I'm not going to scream and shout and insult. I'm not going to say your mother sleeps.
Because it's Lent.
I'm not going to say your mother sleeps with goats or your sister's the fleet's favorite or anything like that. I'm not going to do that.
You already did.
I said, but I will say, if you could reach behind and take that stick that's firmly jammed up your tuchus out, and just for a second think about this. These films and the stories these films are telling are this generation's myths. These are our generation's stories of Gilgamesh and Hercules and all of these other characters that were told about in ancient times and told about in all these oral stories and myths and legends and things like that. Mm-hmm. This is our version of that. Yep. Now, granted, and it's kind of ironic since Hercules is actually a character in the Marvel universe, but I digress. I just feel like people who are very sniffy about these sort of films, they just don't get it.
No, they don't.
And I actually feel sorry for those people.
Yeah.
Because if you can't allow yourself moments where you really can believe a man can fly, then I really think you're dead.
Comic book
I know, yeah, but I really do think you're dead inside, and I really do feel bad for you, and also you're an a-hole.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But for right now, let's get into the action. From Subject Cinema, originally aired on May 6, 2012. Subject Cinema number 350. This was our review of Marvel's The Avengers.
War has started. And we are hopelessly outgunned.
Director Fury, I think it's time.
You're here with the mission, sir? Trying to get me back in the world?
Trying to save it.
Doctor, we need you to come in.
What if I say no?
I'll persuade you.
I don't know about you, but it's been one of the most highly anticipated films of the summer. A remake of the classic British television series from the 1960s. Oh no, that's the other one. It's the coming together of Marvel superheroes' biggest heroes, and it's got an all-star cast. Give us the rundown on The Avengers.
The Avengers is what it says it is. It is the story of Earth's mightiest heroes banding together to stop the evil threat of Loki, who is the half-brother of the Asgardian god Thor, who makes his way back to Earth after being shoved through a black hole at the end of the movie Thor. He has aligned himself with an evil alien entity known as the Other, who is heading up the race of the Chitaran army, who Loki intends to bring to Earth so he can take over the planet and rule us all as our evil overlord. Who can stop him? Well, it turns out that there's a bunch of people out there who are bound and determined to stop him, one of them being Loki's half-brother Thor, the amazing Iron Man, the awesome super soldier Captain America, the tormented genius that is Bruce Banner, also known as the Incredible Hulk, the enigmatic super spy, the Black Widow, and at some point or another, the archer extraordinaire Hawkeye, if he can be taken out from under the evil spell of Loki. And all of these people band together and work together instantly and become a big happy family.
Settle down. That's
No,
not
they don't.
true. No. No, and it
No,
doesn't
actually,
start
they
with
don't.
them even interested because Nick Fury is interested. He's the one that wants to bring them back together. But it seems that the Avengers Initiative has been mothballed.
Yes, by a government organization called the Collective,
Something like that.
Because they feel that these are people that are too powerful to be brought together. Well, unfortunately, these people need to be brought together because the too powerful people need to be brought together to stop the too powerful artifact, the Tesseract, which is something that S.H.I.E.L.D. has been keeping an eye on. It's this device that can create a lot of power. Loki wants to get his grubby mitts on it.
It fell to Earth after Loki actually destroyed it in the end of Thor. Mm-hmm. Sort of.
Yeah, sort of. Well, guess what? It wasn't destroyed. S.H.I.E.L.D. has it. Now Loki's got his grubby mitts on it. Unfortunately, the Avengers don't exactly come together as a well-cohesive weld-oil machine. Because
That's an understatement.
Cap doesn't like Iron Man. Iron Man doesn't like Thor. Nobody seems to be very interested in getting to know the Hulk. And
oh, no.
Well, they want to
Tony
get to
Stark wants to get to know the Hulk very well.
Yeah. But Bruce Banner is very much like, I don't think you want me to do that. The interesting thing about this film is that at its heart, it is about loneliness. There's an interesting thing about this film.
Should be good.
No, shut up. It really is. This film is a lot about loneliness. It's about people who have been isolated for whatever reason and find out in their loneliness they have something in common. The fact that they need to come together to save this planet. You have a person like Steve Rogers, Captain America, a man out of time, literally. This is, this is a guy that's woken up in a future that is has to be nothing like what he ever thought the future was going to be like. You've got somebody like Thor, who is literally a god among men, having to deal with the fact that his brother, adopted, is causing all kinds of problems, and these people around him basically want to kill his brother, something that Thor doesn't really want, because his attitude is basically, I can say what I want about my brother, but don't you dare, pretty much. You have Bruce Banner, a man who literally can have his demons come roaring to the surface at any moment to the detriment of everybody in the immediate area.
Right. And you have a whole bunch of other people, too.
You do. Why don't you read off the cast list?
Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, a.k.a. Iron Man. Chris Evans as Steve Rogers, a.k.a. Captain America. Mark Ruffalo, stepping in for Edward Norton, who played it in the movie, as Bruce Banner, a.k.a. the Incredible Hulk. The Hulk here. Oh, it's the same thing.
Lou Ferrigno also did the voice of the Hulk.
He did?
Okay. Yes.
Chris Hemsworth as Thor. Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow. Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. Tom Hiddleston as Loki. Clark Gregg as Agent Coulson. Kobe Smulders as Agent Hill. Stellan Skarsgård as Professor Selvig. Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, with small appearances by Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts and Paul Bettany as the voice of Jarvis. What did you think?
What a ride. I thought this movie was terrific. I thought it was a comic book come to life. I thought that the chemistry between the cast was terrific. I like the flashes of humor. There are a couple of moments that will literally have you laughing out loud. I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was everything a comic book movie should be. What about you?
It has its moments. And it's most of them, actually. I do have a problem with the plot being razor thin, because they just really didn't, they could have put a little bit more thought into the entire plot. I agree with most critics that way, but overall, this is just a kick-ass fun film. You got great people. You've pretty much, everybody was curious, would this work with so many egos involved with actors, that all had to have equal or close to equal screen time? Because
I think it did.
I think they did a great job with it. They even got Natalie Portman in it by picture from her character from Thor. And they did a great job with meshing everybody here. The storyline, once it gets going, it takes about an hour to really get going. And once it gets going, the first hour is mostly to set everything up, and it's necessary. But right from the beginning, the action starts. And unfortunately, we get to lose somebody along the way, which sucks. But outside of that, it is it's a really awesome, fun film. I wish we had not gone to the 3D when we didn't have a choice. I hate doing 3D unconverted films, and I got to be totally honest. I didn't even see anything in 3D except the one monster in the main battle, and it only happened once. I was like, why did we get 3D? There's no use of it here.
No, I really didn't see the point.
It was pathetic. It's worse than even Green Lantern's 3D was, and it was awful. But outside, I'm not...
Speaking from a female point of view, which I want to do since I am one,
yes, you...
Wow. Damn. This film has
Why don't you just come out and say, shawing?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I also want to say I behaved myself. I was a perfect lady.
She was. If you haven't been yet, by the way, you want to stay because there are 2 post-credit scenes.
Yes, there are. One of them is definitely the, this beep just got real moment.
And we should also mention that there are other interesting cameos, including Stan Lee, who actually appears just as a guy on TV this time. Powers Booth and Jenny Agutter as the 2 that get the most action as part of the shadowy World Council that Nick Fury talks to. A great cameo, a hilarious cameo by Harry Dean Stanton as a security guard, which you'll get. I haven't seen him for a while, and I love him. He was a great character actor. But the where he ends up is hysterical. And also Robert Cloesi as a police sergeant. I haven't seen him. He looks kind of old there since I saw him last time. But there's it's overall it was a lot of fun.
It's great. It's a great movie. It's a feast for the eyes, and I'm not just talking as a woman, in which case it was definitely a feast for the eyes. But it's so much fun to watch. It's colorful and loud and just really, really great. And it's hopeful. It gives you hope. It really does give you hope. Mm-hmm. There's one scene that really touched me. It's a very serious scene, and it's very beautifully shot. The scene in Germany, you know the one I'm talking about. Yeah. I thought that was a really good scene. I thought that spoke to people on a real heartstring level, and I really liked that scene. It was
very good. Yeah.
I really did, and it showed that one person can make a difference, and if one person stands up and says, "No, I will not bow to you," simply because
then all hell will break loose.
Yeah, all hell will break loose, which sometimes needs to happen.
Right.
What do you give it?
What's your score?
I give the Avengers an A.
Uh-huh.
What about
I can't go quite that far because I think they need a little bit more plot development as far as that razor thin string of plot. Even though it's a lot of fun, it could use a little beefing up, and I enjoyed that. I
agree with that. More shirtless scenes for Chris Hemsworth,
That
please.
is not the plot development. Will you take this seriously?
Sorry.
But I can't give it anything less than I do because it is so much fun, and we'll go see it again when we have the money in 2D this time, and actually be able to see and enjoy it without those freaking stupid glasses on. I give the Avengers an A-. You know, after seeing this film, and we loved this film from start to finish.
Yep.
Why can't Warner Brothers do what Marvel is doing? Warner Brothers and the DC Extended Universe have been stuck in low gear the entire time. They've had moments where they've gone into second with Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and now Shazam, but they haven't been able to push it into third and really cohesively come together because you had such spotty results.
Why can't they do what Marvel does? Why can't broccoli taste like chocolate? Because it's just that seems to be the way of nature, I guess. I don't know.
It seems terrible.
They're too impatient. They want it now. They want the success now.
Well, yeah, the first thing they did after the success of Iron Man was order Justice League Mortal, which actually, when looking back, would have been a better idea than what they've been doing.
Yeah.
And the script for Justice League Mortal was out of this world. Justice League Mortal was out of this world good. I mean, if you haven't read it, it's online. It is a really good script.
I haven't read it, but I've seen, people talk about it and go through it,
and it was George Miller, who directed, the original, didn't he direct the original Mad Max movies? He directed Happy Feet. I mean, Happy Feet, for Pete's sake. If the man who directed Happy Feet can't make a good superhero movie, nobody can.
We've brought this up before, and I realize some people will view this as beating a dead horse, and I understand that, but
just beating a dead horse like you asked me to. Sorry, go ahead.
You're sick. Anyway,
I could have brought up Hell Cow. Oh, I just did. Sorry. Anyway.
Marvel, will you please make a Hell Cow movie just to shut him up?
No, I don't want a Hell Cow movie, but I want Hell Cow in the next Deadpool movie. Anyway, let's go.
I am so sorry I've
only known about the character for 3 weeks, and I'm totally obsessed with it. Anyway, will you go ahead?
And it's totally my fault. Wait it! Anyway, stop that. Seriously. Okay, the problem is that Warner Brothers doesn't seem to understand that there is a reason that it's called the DC Universe. You know, just like there's the Marvel universe, or the Doctor Who universe, or the Buffy universe, or the Supernatural universe, or the Firefly universe.
Star Trek universe.
Or the Star Trek universe.
Which is the first really big one.
You know,
yeah.
or, well, actually, technically Doctor Who would have been first.
Yeah, but it wasn't yet because it was only in Britain at that time. So.
All right, well, anyway.
Yeah.
But you get my point.
Yeah.
All of the, well, actually, first would have been the Tolkien universe, but,
true,
you know.
True, that's absolutely true, yeah.
There's a, you know, when you have these universes full of all these people, and yeah, I know that pretty much, unless you're Amish, everybody knows who Batman is. Everybody knows Superman's origin story. And if you're Amish, you're not going to be going to the movies anyway, so that leaves that alone. But my point is, they feel like they, you know, like their whole thing is, oh, we have to do these origin stories so everybody knows what's going on. Okay,
well,
I
the
guess
origin stories worked for Marvel because they were well done, and they all tied into everything. Now that all that is out of the way, you notice they didn't do an origin story with the new Spider-Man movie.
No, they didn't.
They didn't do an origin story really with Ant-Man because Ant-Man technically was Hank Pym before it was Scott Lang.
Well, they did.
So,
well, they did Scott's origin story.
They did Scott's background, not really an origin story, though.
Well, anyway, but my point is that you need to build. You have to view this like you're building a house. Like, you know, you have to view it like you're building a house with bricks. You don't just throw all the bricks on top of each other and hope that it's all going to work out.
Yeah.
You stack them very carefully and you bring them together and you piece them together in a big puzzle, and then you step back and go, wow, look at this great house.
Yeah.
You know, that's what Warner Brothers' problem is. They threw all the bricks into an empty lot and said, do something with this.
Yeah.
And they said that to the bricks, not the builders.
Right.
That's what the problem is.
It does seem like that's the major problem. The bricks in the Marvel Universe are so well thought out and so, you know, complicated. I mean, they involve the main story of the movies, they involve the characters' backstories from the comics, and they also involve the building blocks, which come in the form of the end credit sequences, which people now are like, oh, that's so old hat, blah, blah, blah. But it still works.
It does still work.
And it helps build anticipation for the next 2 or 3 films.
It definitely
we haven't really
does.
gotten into those here because there's a bunch of one-shots that go in the universe too, but
I think another problem, now this is a problem that I think that DC has more than Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
I never really noticed it very much with Marvel stuff, so, and I really didn't notice it with DC stuff until I happened to catch a YouTube video from Looper, and I was like, you idiots, talking about DC for this.
Mm-hmm.
Looper did a video about the 10 good things and bad things, no, not 10, 4 good things and 4 bad things about Shazam. And one of the bad things they brought up about Shazam is that Warner Brothers, DC, they spoiled their own movie. Because...
But they didn't.
What do you mean they didn't?
They didn't spoil that. I said that when I commented on this. That was part of the comic lore. You've got to expect it to show up in the movie. It didn't have to be just because they put out action figures. It also has to do with the fact that these characters were introduced in the New 52, and they would be expected to be in the movie regardless. So it really wasn't a spoiler, and Looper was dead wrong about that.
Right,
I'm sorry.
Well, I
don't agree with any of the wrong points that they had for that myself.
Okay. But see, I think that because my big problem is it seems like DC is more focused, and it seems like it's always been that way. DC is more focused on what comes after the movie as opposed to what comes before the movie.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It does.
What I mean is they're more concerned with toy sales and merchandise and blah, blah, blah.
That's the way they've always been. That's how we got the bat nipples in the Joel Schumacher movies.
My point.
Yeah.
So that's my thing. Marvel, I mean, I'm sure Marvel's concerned about that. I'm not saying this, you know, being through
Disney's been very good
glasses,
since Marvel and Disney came together a few years ago. Disney has been very good about waiting until the film is released before releasing information about the upcoming toy season.
Or any kind of merchandise, T-shirts, whatever,
well,
you know.
They do talk about the basic stuff, but anything that's specific to each movie,
right,
they wait until after it comes out,
right,
which is a good way to do things. This is running a little bit over the plan, but that's okay. We'll talk more about the DC universe as we come back into regular subject cinemas, I'm sure. Coming up, we get to start Phase 2 on tomorrow's show with Iron Man 3 and build up toward yet another Avengers team up. This one was fantastic, and we enjoyed every second of it. It was nice to see. And Mark Ruffalo did a great job filling in for Edward Norton, and of course Scarlett Johansson.
Yes.
That's all I need to say. Scarlett Johansson. Tomorrow, Iron Man 3 as part of more of Subject Cinema's Avengers Endgame MCU Countdown. I'm TC Kirkham.
I'm Kim Brown.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
This podcast is a proud member of the Lamb Podcasting Network. Find the network at largeassmovieblogs.com.
Podcasting's choice. From coast to coast, continent to continent, right here 24/7.
PNR.